I've been working in AI and machine learning for about 25 years. And over the last decade, I've been focused on two different things that are at the intersection of them: cybersecurity and what I call adversarial intelligence. And I don't expect you to know what adversarial intelligence is. You might take a guess. You might think, well, it's something about the Cold War, or the US versus Russia. But really, what it's about is Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Right? This is a Warner Brothers cartoon that appeared in the 50s or 60s. And it's this very compelling example of two adversaries. The coyote wants to eat the Roadrunner, and the coyote just wants to go about its business, but it has to actually protect itself from being the coyote's next meal. And they clearly have an adversarial relationship here. And what makes the cartoon so funny is how intelligently both of these adversaries go about either attacking or defending themselves. So look at Wile. Wile can read. Wile can order things from the Acme catalog. And Wile is able to stage these different campaigns to attack the Roadrunner. Unfortunately, Wile never wins. We don't really know why the Roadrunner is so clever. We'll talk about that later. But Wile is the one who ends up falling off the cliff or hitting the wall or riding on a stick of dynamite. So this is the kind of adversarial intelligence that I'm trying to replicate. And the way I'm going to replicate it is, of course, I'm going to use artificial intelligence. I thought before I put together cybersecurity and adversarial intelligence, let's go back to the fundamentals of contemporary AI, Gen AI, and I thought I'd do that with a simple analogy. Let's think about me trying to heat my house. I could go into my house and start a fire. That's how I get heat. It's not a great idea, right? It's not very safe. I could burn my house down. It's really kind of hard to regulate a fire, an open pit fire in a house. So instead, I resort to engineering. And what I do is I take that heat and I basically package it into an engineered unit like a furnace. And the furnace is much safer, right? I'm not going to burn down my house if I use a furnace. And it's also more easy to regulate and a little bit cleaner for me to use. And when I put something like a programmable thermometer on it, as long as I do what I program into the thermometer and the house follows the programming of the thermometer, I'm going to have this nice relationship with the house turning on when I want it to when I'm there and turning off when I'm not there. But what we really want is a smart house, right? And the smart house is autonomously providing heat and other comforts for you, right? You don't really need to program a smart house. What you do is you rely on it checking your GPS to find out where you are. And when it figures you're 10 minutes away from home, it's going to adjust the temperature to just what you like by the time you get there, right? It may actually consult the weather to see how it can adjust other factors in the house to accommodate the climate. So what does this spectrum of fire in all these cases and heat in all these cases have to do with AI? Well, there's equivalence. The equivalent to fire is generative AI with large language models, right? Large language models have tremendously diverse amounts of very interesting knowledge, but they're not quite safe, right? Sometimes they give us the wrong answer, and we have to prompt engineer them to really get them to do what we want. But they're really, really useful. They're like that fire. We can use them for lots of tasks. To use them more effectively, what we created co-pilots. Co-pilots take that large language model, that generative AI capability, and they add a layer of software around it. And that layer of software around it is very task specific. And because of that task specificity and that layer of software, what I get is more security. Right? I can intervene on prompts that may be dangerous or responses that may be dangerous, and I can do something completely attuned to what the user wants by this specificity. And what replaces the smart house? Well, what replaces the smart house is what we call agents. I'm very interested in agents. Agents are, again, based on generative AI with a layer of software like the Copilot, but they have yet another layer of software. And that software allows this agent to have goals, to follow goals by making up plans, to act in the world, figure out what happens as a result of actions in the world, and basically handle decisions. And so if I want to put together adversarial intelligence and artificial intelligence as it stands right now, what I'm going to do is design co-pilots and agents, right? And my agents are going to be adversarially oriented, right? One of them is going to be attacking, and the other one is going to be defending. And in cyberspace, that means that they're going to be taking the role of threat actors or cyber defensive functionalities. So let me just explain a little bit more about how you can do that with agents. Well, what we do is we replicate the attackers, and we take these agents, and they each have different strategies and different plans for affecting different kinds of threats that go onto systems. And the reason we build agents that replicate threats is so that defenders, and these can be real threats or they can be toy threats, is that defenders like the Roadrunner can now actually test themselves, practice makes perfect, against these replicates of the different threats. And what this replication and practice does is it lets us get ahead in cybersecurity. So often in cybersecurity, we're stuck on our heels, we're being reactive, but when you can actually replicate threat actors and practice against them, you get one step ahead of them, and now you're more like the Roadrunner, right? Because the Roadrunner seems to always be one step ahead of OReilly. And the reason these agents are actually being so effective is really that our defenses now can read the playbooks of the threat actors. We can actually think about the Acme catalog that the threat actors are using. We can actually set up strategies that work and countermeasures that work against them. So this is what cyber defenders do. Cyber defending agents, they may actually be skillful enough to find new phishing attempts, which they can then warn people about, and they can filter them. They may be competent enough to recognize advanced persistent threats and attribute them to a particular threat actor. And once that threat actor has been defied, another defensive agent can come along and anticipate the next move that threat actor will make with its weapons, with its particular strategies and techniques and tactics. And so defensive agents will be like the Roadrunner in replication as well, but they'll be doing different functions to handle all the different parts of these threat actors. And this is sort of the future of cybersecurity with generative AI. The thing is that the Roadrunner faces a relentless coyote. And it's the same thing that happens in cyberspace. The coyote never wins, but that doesn't stop it from trying again and again. And the coyote in cyberspace is always learning, right? Threat actors take away and account for changes in environments. They take into account what you've done, and they come up with something new. So the lesson here is to be vigilant. We have to continue to work on and advance artificial adversarial intelligence. And we have to be aware that there's more threat actors coming down the pipe. So I'll say what they say in Looney Tunes, that's all, folks.